Today we're doing the inverse of a video that I've done earlier. If you haven't seen that video, make sure to check it out later. But today we're going to talk about 10 cars that actually are the same. Starting this video off, technically it's 3 entries, but I'm going to just call them 2, which is the Scion FRS, Toyota 86, and Subaru BRZ. Obviously Scion, with their unfortunate demise, we're going to merge that into Toyota because they technically were part of Toyota anyways. But these 3 cars now only sold as 2, being the Subaru BRZ and the Toyota 86/GR86/GT86. Toyota has renamed this car a ton, but just know, at the core, and really a lot of these cars in general, are basically the same. The main difference between the BRZ and 86 is mostly very minor cosmetic differences, as well as a few minor interior differences, and obviously badges. They do also have different options available from factory, but that doesn't really matter when you consider that the majority of people who own these cars end up modifying them anyways. The result of these 3 cars was of course a joint Subaru-Toyota development, and this joint development resulted in a Boxster engine made by Subaru, an engine which would later have its displacement upped by request from Toyota. Toyota would do the chassis development, and they did a freaking good job, I should say, because the chassis in this car is honestly the greatest selling point of it. It's not the fastest car out the box, not in a straight line, nor from an acceleration and top speed standpoint, but through the corners, it's one of the most well-balanced cars, and thanks to the low center of gravity, mostly due in part to the Boxster engine that Subaru supplied. Speaking of the word Boxster, not to be mixed with Boxster, that brings us to the next entry, which is the Porsche Boxster and the Cayman. This is a very recent revelation for someone like me. I've been a car enthusiast for a long time, but I can't study every single car in the world. I can name really rare and absurd cars like the Arash AF10, but I don't really know everything of there is to know. And I think that's kind of the joy of being a car enthusiast, or really any hobby in general. But what I'm trying to get to is, this video is sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends. Don't act like you didn't see this coming. Raid Shadow Legends are celebrating their 3rd anniversary as one of the top RPG games out there, with over 56 million downloads, and it's still going strong after 3 years long. An amazing addition to the game is the Doom Tower. This game mode introduced a whole world of new terrifying bosses to slay, sprawling over 120 levels. The Doom Tower brought new exciting challenges for seasoned players. As a high-level collection RPG, Raid started with hundreds of unique characters and bosses, but it didn't stop them from adding more and more new champions. This month, Raid's celebrating its 3-year anniversary, and it's going to be huge. They've got an insane amount of things in store. Raid's kicking things off with free gifts for everyone, and then adding a bunch of new content and events. We're talking new champions, new artifact sets, and a fully personalized video showcasing every Raid player's journey on their own personal achievements. If that's not enough, they've got a full month of special events and tournaments with some of Raid's best ever prizes on offer, including badass champions, piles and piles of shards, and tons of other goodies. This is the best time to get started in Raid, and if you're not playing Raid yet, make sure to hit the link in my description or scan the QR code here on screen. This bonus for new players only is a special B-Day package available for 30 days, and it's worth $40. We're talking 3 free champions at once, Misery Cord, Tiger Soul, Romero, plus 10 of each Magic Force and Spirit Brews. And to claim it here, make sure to just check your inbox. And since it's Raid's birthday, the gifts keep coming. All new and existing players can also get a bunch of free birthday gifts worth over $25 once you're in-game by just navigating these in-game menus and entering the promo code 3YearsRaid to get your hands on everything. Simple. So check the link in the description and the pinned comment, and I'll see you in-game. Anyways, I cannot believe that I didn't know that these are basically the same car. My mind always mentally thought the Boxster was underneath the Cayman in regards to trims, and there's actually a very special reason for that. But before I get to that reason, let me tell you about why they are the same. The Porsche Boxster and the Porsche Cayman, fundamentally at their base model form, the only difference, and I'm dead serious when I say this, is that one is a convertible. And you'd probably be like, well, why don't they just call the Cayman the Boxster hardtop? Or the opposite, why don't they call the Boxster the Cayman convertible? I don't know. The Cayman, of course, is the more renowned of the two, especially since it can also get a wide body and overall just appear larger, especially if you get the GT4 as well as the GT-RS trims. This, of course, kind of leaves the Boxster hanging, since the Boxster will usually lack the trims, especially the more extreme ones that the Cayman has, which is why my mind mentally just inserted it as the lower trim car compared to the Cayman. But realistically, all it is it's simply the Cayman's convertible trim, and just has a different name. On to the next two cars on this list, we have the Chevy SS and Holden Commodore VF. So both these cars are just the same car. Living up true to the name in this video, they both use LS3 engines, which is actually just a Corvette engine that was originally made in 2008. This engine's a fantastic engine. It's 6.2 liters and it just makes north of 400 horsepower. It's very fuel efficient. It's got a lot of torque, and more importantly, it's got a nice exhaust note to it. And that's what made both the SS and the VF Commodore very nice commuter cars that also had a nice little sportiness to them. They were so sought after as sports sedans that they ended up appreciating in value as of late. Both these cars at their core weren't super complicated, and I think that's what really matters for making a sports sedan succeed, at least in today's market, and it's rather mind-blowing that people completely passed up on these cars when they were being produced. Manual transmissions were offered for both of them. They had plenty of feet room, leg room, head room. I mean, they were just great cars. They also had tons of trunk space, so much so that you could put the back seats down and even fit a surfboard. Maybe it might hit your passenger to the head while you try that, but it will indeed carry what you need to carry, be it people or items. Unfortunately, Holden would close down in 2017, and also the Chevy SS would continue to fail to sell in the States. This car was originally designed from a chassis and body and appearance standpoint mostly by Holden. It is, in essence, an Australian car that's powered by an American engine and owned by an American main parent company, which is why in America it was rebadged as a Chevy SS. A common misconception is people think that these cars were produced in America and then shipped out to Australia, and that couldn't be more wrong because it is indeed the other way around. That is why when Holden closed down, it became difficult for Chevy to re-release a sports sedan based on the Chevy SS chassis / platform, because that wasn't produced by them. It was produced by a factory all the way across the world in Australia. Honestly, this car has been dearly missed by a lot of enthusiasts, but the sports sedan segment has finally started to pick up a little bit, and this car really just came out before its time, and that's very tragic as to why that had to have been, but that was just how life played its cards. The next two cars we'll talk about are two cute little American roadsters, constantly made fun of for being American Miatas, which are the Saturn Sky and Pontiac Solstice. Both of these cars made pretty decent power actually, considering that they were roadsters, being 177 horsepower on the base engine and up to 260 on their turbocharged models, which really makes them quite a gem to find actually, even more so considering that they also were offered with manual transmissions. They were of course well beloved actually. The main reason both of them disappeared has to do with the fact that their parent company GM ended up filing for bankruptcy during the first recession, and that ended up just completely Thanos snapping both Saturn and Pontiac out of existence. GM, and rather the remaining GM companies I should say, like Chevrolet and Holden and all of them, simply didn't want to inherit this car, and I think that's a huge, and I mean it when I say this, a huge missed opportunity by Chevrolet. I think Chevrolet gladly should have tried to inherit this car and sell it as their cute little 4-cylinder roadster. It wouldn't take any sales away from the Corvette because it's nothing like it. It's much smaller and it has an engine that's like about half its size. That's an understatement. It's more than half its size. It's a small engine, but I don't mean that in an offensive way. I mean that in a sense that the Mazda Miata has proven that Americans still love roadsters, and more so that the rest of the world still loves roadsters. Not everyone wants a giant sports car, especially when you consider that not every country is filled with giant, really horribly designed car-centric highways that I really hate. And seriously, America, give us more trains, and at the very least, if you're gonna make us suffer this horrible car-centric design, at least give people the option to choose a nice small roadster. And a quick note I would like to mention is that overseas this was referred to as the Opel GT or the Daewoo G2X. Moving on to honorable mentions, we have the Toyota Camry and the Lexus ES350. Basically both of these cars, and you can actually tell just by looking at them, they're the exact same car. One just has higher badge status because both Lexus and Toyota are basically the same company, with Lexus being Toyota's luxury division. Of course, the ES350, most of its differences are on the inside actually, where they ended up giving it lots and lots of nice leather and a really horrible, inefficient infotainment system, because seriously, Lexus, please stop doing this. I hate it in my LS460, and I still hate it now in all of your newer cars. And another honorable mention being the Koenigsegg CZ8S and the New Edge Ford Mustang GT. No, I'm not joking, both these cars have the same engine. Okay, I am joking because that doesn't mean that they're the same car, but I just put them here just because I could and because I knew some people that would blow their minds. And the reason I mentioned both these cars is they do tie into the final entry in this video, which is the Crown Victoria and Mercury Grand Marquis, of course using the 4.6 liter modular V8 that the New Edge Ford Mustang GT also used. Both the Crown Vic and the Mercury Grand Marquis were fantastic cars for their time, being very large and long and very wide, and just, they got a good road presence, but the main appeal of them was how nice they cruised, and the solid V8 that they were given made them very reliable. Now, the only reason the Crown Vic was produced all the way up until the late 2011s and even part of 2012 is because they were used as police cars as well as taxis, and they had an ongoing contract with both American law enforcement as well as with a lot of taxi companies. Admittedly, when these cars were a lot younger, both from a mileage and year standpoint, they indeed were the most reliable car you could buy for $500. They were the car that you got if you just wanted to move somewhere and you had to be somewhere and life really kicked you in the ground and put you in a bad place, but you needed a car that didn't give up on you, and that was indeed the Crown Victoria. I'm not gonna take back all the kind words I said about this car. Everyone constantly says it's overhyped and it's garbage now. Of course it's garbage now. The ones you find now are 300,000 miles. You're talking about a car that's over 25 years old at this point, so there's gonna be a lot of rust and other things that time just wore down on it. But more so importantly, these cars have actually appreciated in value due to the fact that people kind of like the novelty of what they represented, being old taxi cars and being old police cars. So by the time you're spending $4,000 on one of these cars, you can spend your $4,000 on better forms of transportation. And if you're a single driver especially who doesn't even need to carry anything around or carry any people around, you're honestly better off just buying a Honda Super Cub or really any motorcycle instead of a whole freaking car. But for the times that both the Grand Marquis and the Crown Victoria did do their job, I respect both of their cars, and they indeed were fantastic cars when they were made and lived their lives, both to law enforcement, to taxi services, and to the people who needed to rely on them as the reliable vehicles that they were. But all good things come to an end, and so does this video. So, thank you for watching, and if you enjoy cars and car content, make sure to subscribe. Other than that though, I'll see y'all next time. Blade Angel out.